This is stuff you like, you can call me Ursa, and Loki is a tragedy writ small and large. His character arc is a tiny personal descent into self-destructive vengeful madness, rather like Hamlet with the self-hating and the daddy issues, but his character arc has universe-spanning consequences. If Thor is metal, he gets dented but he carries on, then Loki is ice, he can only take so much and then he shatters. See what I did there? Because the grand reveal in Thor is that Loki is really Laufey's son. He's a frost giant. He was adopted by the Allfather and raised in Asgard and taught to hate the frost giants, a lesson which he learns rather do well. He's the overshadowed younger brother of Thor and a master of magic in a world full of proud warrior race guys and gals. He starts out in Thor as a trickster, naturally enough, and proves that his brother is a giant man-child who is unsuitable for the throne, even as he proves that he himself is super, super dangerous.
How did the god even know?
I told him.
Laufey said there were traitors in the house of Odin. A master of magic could bring 3 Jotuns into Asgard.
He's a twisty little bugger at the start of Thor, for sure, but you don't get the impression that he has yet lost his marbles. That comes later. But you do see his greatest weakness, which is his complete inability to keep things simple, but we'll come back to that in a minute. Ultimately, his fathers, both of them, are complicit in his fall, but he is seriously hamstrung by his complete inability to let anybody help him.
You give up the Tesseract! You give up this poisonous dream! You come home.
It's too late. It's too late to stop it.
No. We can. Together.
Sentiment.
No, says Loki, you are a big mean meaniehead, and so I will hurt you and hurt myself even more, just so you can't help. Mature, Loki. Real mature. But it is very true that Odin is not a great guy sometimes, let's be honest here. A short list of his flaws could run to several pages, so we'll make it a very short list. Number 1. Stealing babies is bad, yo.
In the aftermath of the battle, I went into the temple and I found a baby. Small for a giant's offspring, abandoned, suffering, left to die. Laufey's son.
Laufey's son.
Number 2. Lying about it is almost worse.
You could have told me what I was from the beginning. Why didn't you?
You're my son. I wanted only to protect you from the truth.
Well, because I'm the monster that parents tell their children about at night?
We firmly establish Loki as a sympathetic villain with this scene. Of course, he is played by Tom, I can see the good in you, the conflict Hiddleston, and so that can only really help his cause. His fathers suck. One of them abandons his tiny baby self to die, and one of them picks him up, raises him as an Asgardian, and fills his head full of hate for his own people. Just good on so many levels.
I thought we could unite our kingdoms one day, bring about an alliance, bring about a permanent peace, through you.
My own personal theory for Odin's wise master plan goes: truce with frost giants, good. On Laufey's death, produced Loki as his one true heir. Peace with the frost giants will clearly ensue. Woo, Odin! Of course, lying to said kid regarding his parentage his whole life and then sacking out when he needs you most puts a bit of a crimp in that plan and generates yet more sympathy for tall, thin and brooding. But he's gonna need all the sympathy we can muster because he is a fantastic villain. And by fantastic villain, I mean more that he gets a lot of people hurt and or killed rather than he actually accomplishes anything significant. Bear this in mind, but bear this in mind also, because he starts out plenty destructive in Thor, and then there's the Tesseract.
I am Loki of Asgard, and I am burdened with glorious purpose.
A purpose so glorious, he has not had time for a haircut, a shower, or any sleep at all since the end of the last film. Huh. Maybe if we smack him really hard in the head, it might help. Tasha, can we get you on that? But he works as a villain in the Avengers because he's so mercurial and because he gets every one of the Avengers dancing to his tune.
Thank you for your cooperation.
Okay, not Natasha so much, but he manages to suck Tony, Steve, Bruce, Thor, and Nick Fury into his machinations.
Loki is a prisoner.
And why do I feel like he's the only person on this boat that wants to be here?
And of course he sticks Hawkeye with the magic spear. Frankly, Tony puts it really quite well.
You, big fella, you've managed to piss off every single one of them.
That was the plan.
Not a great plan.
And that's Loki's downfall in the end. Not that he lacks conviction, though he may, or that he's not dangerous because he is, or that he's not scary because eep, but because he steadfastly refuses to keep it simple, stupid. But that ties back into his character and his motivation for all of this villainy, because if you want a good villain, especially a sympathetic one, you need a good sort of driving force. And his is a doozy.
I remember a shadow. Living in the shade of your greatness. I who was and should be king. I never wanted the throne!
Yeah, tell me another. Okay, maybe you didn't initially. Maybe you just wanted to prove yourself better. And by better, I of course mean cleverer. Hence, do this with these guys and then double-cross those guys and then blah blah blah. It's almost childish. The twisty, complicated plans seem to be more important to him than efficacy. And of course it all links back to his validate me daddy insecurity complex. Me, I'm the smartest and the bestest and the cleverest, pay attention to me!
I will have saved his life. I will have destroyed that race of monsters, and I will be true heir to the throne. Is it madness? Is it?
Yes. Actually, yes it is. As Thor rises, refined by trials and loss and learning selflessness and humility and what have you, Loki falls. And the further Thor rises, the more heroic he becomes, the further Loki descends. And the more he becomes convinced that he is the only real person in the room and everyone else is just a pawn.
You were made to be ruled. In the end, you will always kneel.
Not to men like you.
There are no men like me.
There are always men like you.
I love that bit so much. It proves that what Thor said was right.
I mean to rule them.
That's why should I
You
not?
think yourself above them.
Oh, yes.
And you miss the truth of ruling, brother.
Loki just doesn't get it. And the worst part of Loki and Thor's relationship is that they really actually do seem to care for each other. I mean, Thor very clearly cares for Loki, but Loki, in his twisty, not quite all there kind of way, really cares for Thor.
What are you doing? Destroy the bridge or let us see her again!
Avengers Loki is too broken and too wrapped up in his own pain and narcissism and the crazy-making power of the Tesseract to understand it, but Thor really loves him. It's one of his defining features, and it's one of the things that makes Loki a great villain. He's a threat, but he's sympathetic. He's frightening, but he's defeatable. And Thor is his counterpoint, big and simple and honest versus cunning and sneaky. Gryffindor versus Slytherin, if you will. But if Harry Potter fanfiction has taught us nothing else, and it hasn't, it's that redemption arcs are always a possibility. I mean, by the end of the Avengers, Loki has had his backside thoroughly whooped. Is this all part of some elaborate Xanatos gambit? Maybe. But maybe not, and he now has the opportunity to think about the truth of Tony's statement.
You're missing the point. There's no throne. There is no version of this where you come out on top.
He's a smart guy, he should be able to figure this out. But whether or not that means that he actually regrets his actions, or wishes to redeem himself, or wishes to swap sides just for the sake of expedience, well, that one's in the lap of the demigods. And the writers. But I think we're all looking forward to it. Next time we are finally, and yes, I know you've been very patient, wrapping up the Avengers, and so join me for Darcy as fangirl stand-in, Pepper as awesome non-action girl, and other fabulous lady-related things.